Welcome and anchor down from the Vanderbilt campus. Jimmy and Zach are back for the Vanderbilt football season preview. I can't believe it's been over a year since we started doing the podcast. We'd like to thank everyone that's been tuning in to all of them, everyone that's subscribed. And we hope to give you an even better year of podcasts in 2016.
Yeah, better year of podcasts and hopefully a better year of football as well. Derek Mason is entering his third year here on West End, and he showed massive improvement in certain areas from year one to year two.
Yeah, absolutely. The first year, frankly, we just looked unprepared. We did not look like an SEC football team. We didn't look like a Division I football team. Last year, it was completely different. The defense, at least, looked like one of the top teams in the nation. The offense lagged behind a little bit, maybe a lot. But that said, we're a lot more optimistic going into the third year. Before going into this year, though, we'd like to go over a few statistics from last season that probably summarize why we went 4-8 opposed to 7-5 or 8-4. For one, the defense was great. 28th in total defense. We were 6th in third down defense and also 6th in red zone defense. So in terms of situational defense, we were superb. But the defense wasn't the question. The question was on offense.
Yeah, the offense really was awful for, I'd say, all of the year, except for maybe in the last game, even though we lost by a lot. The offense was 126th out of 127 D1 teams in red zone offense. That means they just really could not score the ball. And they did that while also being 25th in time of possession somehow. So they were able to move the ball. They had the ball. They just couldn't finish. And we know it's not a game of who has the most yards. It's not a game of who has the ball for the most time. It's a game of actually scoring points. And God, that all those stats come out to equal an offense that was 123rd out of 127 in scoring. And that's behind teams that are really just awful that you wouldn't have heard of.
Yep. So overall, last year, great defense, horrible offense.
Bad special teams as well.
Bad special teams, and a turnover margin of -8, which ranked us 109th out of 127 teams in the nation.
That has to change.
That equates to 4-8.
And that's the stat, however bad the offensive stats were, that's the stat that jumps out to me more, because this team's identity is playing hard defense, running the ball, controlling the clock, and controlling field position. And God, if you're not going to score that much, you can't just be handing the ball over to the other team, and we hope that that changes going into this year. We have the starter named at QB for the first time under Derek Mason before the season starts. That guy's Kyle Shermer, and we're really optimistic about what he's going to bring to the field.
Yeah, we also think that he's going to have a little bit more support from the offensive line this year. Our prediction of the 5 people that will start from left to right would be at left tackle Will Holden, left guard Delando Crooks, center most likely Ian Pfeiffer, maybe Barrett Guger or Gouger, however it's pronounced, can factor in at center, right guard Bruno Reagan, and right tackle Justin Struhl.
Yeah, it's bad news came out of camp that Andrew Jelks is going to miss the year again. You got to feel bad for the guy. He's going to be there supporting his guys, but we are somewhat deep, if not great at the top. We do have a lot of guys, especially young guys, that can contribute should another guy go down or even beat out one of these guys we have penciled in to start by the middle of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people like Grenier could easily get a lot of play time. Southers, Harden, maybe even one of the freshmen. Moving on from the offensive line, though, hopefully Kyle Shermer will also have better targets to pass to. We are extremely optimistic about the tight ends. We have DeAndre Woods, who's coming back, someone that last year we thought was arguably our best receiving target before going down. He's essentially a wide receiver in a tight end's body, 6'3", 235, 240, intimidating, massive guy. And we also have Jared Pinkney, really soft hands, runs great routes. And then obviously Nathan Marcus, who will also get some play time.
Yeah, a lot of people are high on him. If he can catch the ball, he might have a year like Stephen Shoy had 2 years ago. That's what Derek Mason said, but that is the main issue with him actually holding on to the football. Yeah, the tight end should be a strong group. There's other guys too, Anderton, Sam Dobbs, that could also see time. And we have Woods coming back from injury, Pinkney coming back from injury, but maybe the most important guy coming back is C.J. Duncan. He was our best receiver 2 years ago, went down in camp before the start of last season, and he should help Trent Sherfield carry the load at receiver.
Oh, absolutely. C.J. Duncan might be our most reliable receiver this year.
Definitely.
If it's third and long, I want the ball going to C.J. Duncan. He has some acrobatic catches. He's also athletic. We also have Caleb Scott back, someone who's pretty reliable in my opinion. And also you have Latavius Ray for Darius Sims, who could be a big play threat. and Kalijah Lipscomb and the other freshmen that may get some play time this year.
And the spot that we haven't talked about yet, which is, in my opinion, our strongest spot on offense, is running back Ralph Webb, second team All-SEC in pretty much every preseason poll that's been taken. He's a guy that's going to probably carry it at least 25 times a game, but there are some other guys that will look to give him a break, and hopefully one of them can be a pleasant surprise to be a nice 1-2 punch with Webb. Dallas Rivers has been that number 2 guy the last few years, but look for Josh Crawford and Kari Blasingame, who's coming over from the defensive side of the ball, to add something. And if I had to ask you, who do you think out of these guys, out of Rivers, Crawford, Blasingame, you think will be that number 2 and could challenge Webb for some carries?
My best guess goes for Josh Crawford. I'd say he's the shiftiest of the running backs in my opinion. I also liked that he was a pretty impactful player as a freshman. Now that he's been in the system for an entire year, and he was a true freshman last year too, I must add. Now that he's been in the program for over an entire year, I think he's ready to flourish. That said, I would love for Kari Blasingame to either be our number 2 or even become our number 1. I mean, that guy is huge. He has so much power. At the least, hopefully he's a third down back or red zone guy.
Yeah, he's added about 40 to 50 pounds since he got on campus freshman year. And I talked to him last year, asked if he played running back in high school, and he said he did. And then I asked him, you must have ran over a ton of people in high school. Then he smiled and he said he did. He's super optimistic, super happy about the chance to play running back, and maybe he'll be able to alleviate some of those red zone struggles having a big back down there.
Mm-hmm. And we also might be running a little more I formation this year with either Blasingame or the freshman Bailey McElwain at fullback, so look out for that. I think that covers it for the offense. Moving on to the defense, this is the unit that we're all more excited about.
What?
Yep, first season, the defense didn't really know what they were doing. I'd like to liken our defense to learning a new language. The first year, you're learning the basics. We didn't
also,
really
Derek
know.
Mason wasn't the coordinator. That's
wasn't.
That's a big difference right there.
So, yeah, we were pretty inept on defense the first season. Second year, we really became literate in the 3-4 defense. We're just learning the schemes. And I'm really hoping the third year we're fluent. We can run whatever schemes Derek Mason wants. Hopefully the guys, after being in the system for a few years, can really go full speed with whatever blitzes, whatever schemes that Mason wants. So I'm really optimistic about the defense from, I guess, a mental standpoint. I think these guys will really know the ins and outs of the 3-4. And I also like it from just the players we have on the defense. Starting with the defensive line, I think we'll have Adam Butler, Nephi Leolau, and sadly right now Jay Woods is out, and most likely Nehemiah Mitchell will start at the end position. That said, I think that's a pretty strong unit, and we also have some depth with guys like Torrey Agee, who will get plenty of play time. Jonathan Wynn will get some play time at defensive end. The middle positions, in terms of backups, I don't know, Dave Grissard, maybe.
Yeah, Odiengba. He looked really good when we watched him in the spring. We covered spring practice for 24/7 Sports, and he was one of the guys that jumped out to us really every time that we went. And after talking about the defensive tackles, defensive ends, we're going to get into the best position group on this team. Mm-hmm. You could argue that our 3 best players come out of this position group we return. You can't talk about linebackers without talking about Zach Cunningham. He was first team All-SEC last year, first team preseason All-American on some polls this year. He's going to be an absolute beast. You watch him, he's all over the field. He stuffs guys at the line of scrimmage. He covers the end. He gets outside. He covers receivers. He really does everything you want out of an inside linebacker. And going along with him, a guy who's coming off of concussion in one of the first couple games last year, Nigel Bowden. And he was really as good 2 years ago as Cunningham was last year. That could be the best inside linebacker duo. I'm not even going to say in the SEC. It could be the best in the entire country. You're looking at Zach Cunningham, likely to be a first or second round pick after this year. Bowden not far behind him. And to go along with them, we're adding in this star position that Derek Mason loves. He's talking about it. He's starting to recruit guys just specifically for this position, and we're putting one of our best players in that spot this year, Oren Burks. Played strong safety last year. He's going to play closer to the line this year, get after the passer. He's looked really good there so far. And the other outside linebacker figures to be Landon Stokes. We also have some guys behind him like Caleb Parrott and Charles Wright, some other guys that should get time as well. That's not even mentioning Josh Smith, who's one of the best recruits that we've ever gotten. He should play a lot too.
Yeah, those starting 4 linebackers, absolutely elite. The inside linebackers, best duo in the entire nation, no doubt in my opinion. Extremely stoked to see them, pun not intended, Landon Stokes. But anyways, a group that I'm really really excited about, and that probably they're not getting much attention, but the cornerbacks.
Very good.
Torrin McGaster is one of the best in the SEC. Trey Herndon returning. The guy is absolutely ripped. He's also good coverage man, great size, great speed. What is he? Probably 6'1", close to 200 pounds.
Yeah, I saw him yesterday, actually. It looks like he added 10 to 15 pounds from last year, and he was also already a pretty big guy.
Yeah, we also have a little bit of depth at the cornerback position. Torrin Ferguson's a guy that could easily step in and start if we need him to. And the freshman Joejuan Williams has been turning heads. He was an early enrollee, about 6'2", 200 pounds. Dominated Tennessee football. Absolutely huge that we got him at Vanderbilt. And moving on to the safeties, this is another group that I feel like is not getting much attention. But during the spring, I was unbelievably impressed by Emmanuel Smith and Ryan White.
Yeah, I'd say really the number one safety that jumped out to me, even though he's not penciled in a starter, is Ladarius Wiley. He's played a bunch of positions since he's come here. He came in as a receiver. He played some corner last year, even though he didn't play a ton when he was on the field. I don't think I ever saw anybody catch a pass on him. And he was running with the second-team safeties. He could also get some time. We heard Derek Mason say that Emmanuel Smith will play about 75% of snaps. And we expect Ryan White to be the full-time guy at free safety. And we think those other snaps at strong safety will probably come from Ladarius Wiley.
I think that covers it for the defense. In terms of special teams, let's run through this really quickly. We've heard that Ralph Webb will be returning kicks in Game 1.
Not sure how I feel about that.
Neither of us seem to be too high on it. You do not want him to get injured. We also have faster guys like Sims I feel like would be better suited for that position.
Who's almost recruited as a returner, sounded like.
Yeah, perfect fit for that. So not pumped about that decision. And we also, Reed Nelson is expected to start at punter in the first game, we've heard. Tommy Openshaw will be focusing more on just kicking this season, which I think should be great for him.
I'm wondering why Sam Loy isn't expected to start, because we thought that he'd be the guy, scholarship punter coming in. Maybe he's just not ready for week 1. It's different playing against a rush than it is in practice. It's really hard to simulate special teams in practice, so maybe he'll be the guy in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think eventually he'll find his own on the team and get some play time.
So if I had to ask you on the defense, outside of Zach Cunningham, Oren Burks, and Nigel Bowden, because we really said those could be the 3 best guys on the entire team, who do you think is the next best guy? Who's a guy that when the polls come out at the end of the year could be first or second team All-SEC that not many people are talking about right now?
Well, I think we're probably going to share this opinion, but my 4th guy would be Torrin McGaster. He is an elite cornerback. He's a senior. He's been around for a while. I mean, I can't think of a single weakness that the guy has. He's athletic. He's a great coverage man. He can tackle.
He's got that attitude, too. You always see him, almost taunting the receivers, doing the Dikembe Mutombo, no, after he denies them from catching a pass. Yeah, Torrin McGaster's a guy to watch. Adam Butler, too, I could see.
Adam Butler. Jay Woods when he's back.
Yeah.
Maybe not Nehemiah, sorry, possibly him, but Nephi I think is someone who will have a breakout season. So hopefully he could be one of the top people on the defense.
Yeah, so I think from the schedule, we'll just talk for a little bit now. You see who we have coming back. We lost some guys. We didn't lose a ton. We returned some of the most starters in the entire SEC. I think we were really close from a bowl game last year, despite how bad the offense was. And the offense was awful. We said it was 123rd out of 127. If the defense can even be almost as good, and the offense takes a stride forward how the defense is, I really think the ceiling for this team is very high.
We have a schedule that lends its way towards a bowl game. I mean, I'll just read through it really quickly. We have South Carolina, not good. MTSU, not good. Georgia Tech, not good. Western Kentucky, not good. Florida could be good, might not be good.
Winnable.
Kentucky, probably not good. Georgia, new QB, they'll probably be good, though. TSU, that's a joke. Auburn, likely not good. Could be good, though. It is Auburn. Mizzou, probably not good. And then Ole Miss and Tennessee will be good. But you heard a lot of not good. I think that's the point.
A lot of not good. Yeah, we really broke the games down into 5 categories, or I guess 6 categories. First category we have is Pop Warner / Powder Puff matchup. That would be TSU. You could pencil in 1 win there. And the games that should be cupcake games also are MTSU and Western Kentucky, even though they were close. Both of those games were close, and we lost to Western Kentucky last year. If this team is taking a step forward, even if it's a small step, we should beat those 2 teams.
The third category that we made is wins if we do not turn the ball over excessively.
How we did last year.
Exactly. South Carolina, Georgia Tech, and Mizzou we put in that category.
Yeah, and
So
I think, there's 6 wins right there.
yeah, that's 6 wins already. There's your bowl game. And then there's a 50-50 of Kentucky.
Yeah, I'd say I put that in a category by itself. And Kentucky, since it's on the road, is 50-50. We think they'll be similar to how we are. How I see the standings shaking out has Kentucky and us 4 and 5, and Mizzou and South Carolina 6 and 7 in some kind of order. And we could even be higher than that. And then after that, we have the games that are winnable, but we won't be favored in: Florida, Georgia, and Auburn. And actually, an interesting fact about the Auburn game is they're coming off games against Arkansas and at Ole Miss the previous 2 weeks. They're going to be exhausted. We're coming off of TSU and the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
So some people are saying the 7 games are going to come from the 3 bottom feeders in the SEC East and the 4 out of conference. I think Auburn might almost be able to shift into one of those categories as a winnable game. A very winnable game, too. And then, of course, the powers, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia are going to be tough, but you never know.
But yeah, you look at the schedule, at least 6 of those first 7 teams that we listed in the Pop Warner to 50-50 category, we should really get 6 wins out of those 7 games. Hopefully we even get 7, and hopefully we pull an upset against one of those Florida, Georgia, Auburn teams. And who knows, by when we face them, it might not even be considered an upset. I think the ceiling's quite high. I know a lot of people are saying it's 7, 8 games. I don't buy that. The competition in the East is not that high. We could easily, I don't want to say easily, but we could conceivably get 10 wins if a lot of these teams aren't strong and the offense clicks and the defense just stays put where they were last season.
I think the big if there is if the offense clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's hard to predict that the offense is going to be as good as the defense was last year. If the offense is as good as the defense was, then we're a national title team.
Then we're 12 now.
Yeah, the defense was really, really good. But, God, if we do take the step forward, the difference between a good, solid team and a team that we say aren't very good, we think that pretty much those 7 teams on the schedule, and we even throw our team into there, are just not very good. But if we take that step, we could go into that solid, respectable level that takes care of those teams that, quite frankly, are really bad, that would get absolutely drilled by a title-contending team. Like if Oklahoma, if Alabama played Kentucky, played Mizzou, played Georgia Tech, they'd destroy them. If they play a team like Georgia, it might seem like a close game. And we think that we can go from that category of bottom half of the SEC to category of top half of the SEC with just a small improvement from the offense.
Mm-hmm. Just to give some context, during the James Franklin era, a lot of people say we're the beneficiary of a weak bottom half of the SEC East. You always had teams like Kentucky and Tennessee that you could beat. And if we finished just in the middle of the SEC East, then we had an 8-4 record.
Yep.
That's something we could easily do this season. And it's a very fragile line between having 4 wins and 8 wins.
Look at Florida.
Yeah, it's the same team that we have. Elite defense, shaky offense.
Maybe slightly better across.
And what did they finish with? 9 wins last season, I believe.
Like they won all of the close games. They didn't have quite as much of a problem with the turnovers as we did.
Yeah, so it comes down to discipline and a winning culture. That's something we need to create this season, and we can win those close games, and we can have 9 wins, even if we're not that much better than we were last season.
Starting off strong is really important, not just winning the South Carolina game, but scoring early in that game. This is a team that's built to play with a lead rather than play from behind, and you really got to build that confidence from early on. If we win that South Carolina game, the next few games look manageable. And it's really hard to go down the line and predict a game against Auburn on November 5th. I think it's kind of ridiculous when people do the whole schedule. We're going to win that game, but lose that game, but win that game, but lose that game. I think it's just categories of games. We have a good chance of beating a lot of these teams on our schedule, and it's hard to pick exactly what we'll win, but there's a good chance we end up with 6 or 7 wins and go to a bowl game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked a lot about how the offense is going to be key this season. We have a few discussion questions for each other just to debate. That could be interesting. For one, and this is probably the most important question, will the offense be better this season? And if we are better, how much better do you expect us to be, Zach?
Well, last season we averaged around, 15 points a game?
Yeah, 15, down from 17 the year before.
That is really, really, really bad. And if you look across the schedule, if we scored 20 points in every single game, we make a bowl game. And if we scored 20 points in every single game, which means we would be averaging 20 for the season, we would still be like 100th out of 127 D1 teams, which is still really bad. I mean, we gotta think we got to average like another 10 points a game to get into that next category of team and not just squeak by in some games, but that might be doable. If we just cut down on the turnovers, play field position, and have a couple more explosive plays a game, it's really not hard to get up to score 25 points a game. There's some teams that we would consider really bad who are able to do that.
Yeah, talk about cutting down on turnovers, especially red zone turnovers. If we had no red zone turnovers last season, we easily would have had probably 20 points per game. We just have to be careful with the ball in the red zone. We have hopefully Kyle Shermer is a guy that will be a lot smarter than our former quarterback, who we won't name right now. And hopefully guys like Kari Blasingame can really help in that third down efficiency and red zone offense. We need to be able to move the ball when we're in the red zone. We also need to just protect the ball in the red zone and get 3 points if that's all we can get.
Yeah, and I want to move on to one of these other questions because I really find it fascinating how we've been anticipating this game really since the end of last season. How does us beating South Carolina by a field goal or us losing to South Carolina by a field goal, a 6-point swing, how do you think that will affect your outlook on the season? Because, quite frankly, right now I'm saying that 6 points in a game really shouldn't affect it that much, but I bet if we beat South Carolina, I'm going to be looking down and saying we're going 4-0 into that Florida game and we can make some noise. But if we lose, are you losing all hope? Or what do we have to show?
I lose a lot of hope if we lose to South Carolina. One, we do not think South Carolina is a strong team at all. They may be starting a freshman quarterback. They really don't have any key returning starters, so we're not facing a great team in South Carolina. I think it's a great first matchup because it's very winnable. If we lose that one, though, it says a little bit about the winning culture that I've already mentioned. When you're facing teams that are either equivalent or worse to you and you consistently lose, I think that says something about the team and their identity. I think we have to win that South Carolina one.
And I want to follow that up with another question. I like this one better. How would beating South Carolina by 3 touchdowns change your outlook on the season?
If we beat South Carolina by 3 touchdowns, then look, we're starting 4-0. I honestly think we beat Florida. I'm not high on Florida. He might start 6-0 going into Georgia, and that game might be a toss-up if we're 6-0. I mean, that could be game day. I guess that one's away, right? That's at Georgia. That could be game day at Georgia if we're both doing well. And say you even lose that, you're going to beat TSU, and you could be beating Auburn, you're beating Mizzou. If we win by 3 touchdowns against South Carolina, I see us not only as a bowl team, but as a 9-10 win team. And it's entirely possible. That said, I don't want to be entirely caught up by just one game. South Carolina might be, they're not Austin Peay, but they might be the worst SEC team we've seen in a while. And so part of it is the eye test. We might win by 21 points. It might be 24-3. The offense might look like they're struggling still, and it might be that the defense got a pick 6, or the defense just looks stellar, and that we're just the beneficiary of an easy matchup. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, I think I'll trust the eye test more than the score. Because South Carolina, we could beat them 24-3. South Carolina has the potential to be really, really, really bad this year. They have the potential to be like 2-10 bad this year. So I just want to see strides from our offense. Even if the defense doesn't play as well as they did last year, it is the first game. There's a lot of players in new spots. We have a new starting safety tandem. Oren Burks is playing linebacker. New guys starting up front. No more Weatherly or Zubike. No more Darian Herring inside. But, God, you got to think if we win that game, the expectation is going to be going 4-0 into the Florida game. And then you start off strong. I really think it'll make a big difference talking about that winning culture.
Momentum is enormous in college football. And, yeah, if we lose that game, I'm penciling us in as like a 2-3 win team, honestly. We win that game convincingly. I'm saying 8 or 9 possibly. We win it by a little bit, which is probably the most likely scenario. Then we're looking at maybe around 6 wins. In my book.
So I think the odds makers have the over-under for the Vandy win total at 5.5 or 6, depending on where you're looking. That it's been trending upward because a lot of people have been betting the over on that. And I just have to ask you, we have to conclude like this. How many games is Vandy going to win this year?
My best bet is 7. I'm optimistic that we can do better, but I also think that a lot of fans would be really happy with 7 wins. That means we're winning.
Definitely.
That means we're winning all of the games against teams that are of about equal value or equal talent, I guess, or lesser talent. And I think that's the next stride we have to make as a team. Hopefully we get an upset in there, 1 or 2. But at 7's my best prediction. Like we've already dug into the dirt, honestly. The schedule is not difficult. The defense should be amazing. And the offense should be at least slightly improved. I think that equates to 7 wins as long as we play smart.
Yeah, I don't want to be playing devil's advocate here, but if the team doesn't improve that much, we also have the potential to do a lot worse than that. Georgia Tech, similar to how we are in the SEC, they are in the ACC. That should be a win if we improve, but if the offense doesn't improve and the defense gets a little worse, that could be a loss. And I've been really disappointed the last few years picking this team to have 7 wins or 8 wins. So I think I got to go a little bit more conservative, and I'll say 5 or 6.
Okay.
I would be happy with any 6 or more. Going to a bowl game would definitely be a success. It shows improvement in each of Mason's years. And I really just want to see improvement on the offensive side of the ball week 1 to make me optimistic for the rest of the season and, of course, get that W. If we look really bad against South Carolina and lose, I'll be honest, we're probably 2 of the biggest Vandy fans here, and we might lose interest in the team before the season really gets going if we lose to South Carolina, and that would definitely not be good for attendance, definitely would not be good for momentum. So I just hope we get off to a hot start. I'll pick us at 6, but I do think that 8 is more likely than 4, I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. So we've been talking about the big picture a lot and different scenarios that might play out, whether we win or whether we lose against South Carolina. But what is your prediction for South Carolina?
Score prediction?
Yeah, let's get a score prediction.
Let's get a score prediction.
Yeah.
I think we will score. I think Shermer will throw a touchdown. I think Webb will run for a touchdown. I think Blassingame will run for a touchdown. There's
Hey, I like
21. I'll add on a field goal. So I'll say 24. And I think we let up a couple big plays. I'll say 24-19. I think our defense steps up in the red zone, how they always do. I think maybe we have one bad turnover that puts them there. But I'll say 24-19 Vandy. We're favored by 3. That's picking Vandy to win by 5. That's not being a super homer or anything, saying that we're going to win. So I'd say 24-19 Vandy.
Okay, so you seem slightly more optimistic about the offense than I am for the first game, actually. If I were to make my best prediction, I'm going to say 20-10, with one of the touchdowns coming from the defense. I'm not going to pick a player randomly.
Who's going to get it?
Who's going to
pick 6? Who's going to get it?
Oren Burks is going to tip the ball, catch it, and run it back to the house. Okay.
Okay, if that happens, we'll play the soundbite every week.
Will do. Okay. So 1 touchdown coming from them, and I'm going to give 1 to C.J. Duncan. I want him to have a good game coming back. I mean, there's nothing that would really make me more happy than seeing C.J. Duncan go out for a season, come back, score a touchdown in his first game.
Yep.
Then we'll get a couple of field goals. Defense should be lights out. South Carolina's offense should also be atrocious.
What do you say, player of the game?
20-10, player of the game. I mean, kind of have to say Zach Cunningham because it's Zach Cunningham.
Yeah, I'd go Cunningham as well. I'd say Cunningham or Webb. Those are the 2 obvious choices. If you made me pick somebody else, I mean, it's really tough. Maybe I'll say Emmanuel Smith. Maybe he gets a pick, forces a fumble, something like that.
Yeah, so Ralph Webb, you mentioned him. He might be player of the game. How do you think he's going to do overall this season?
He'll run for 1,000 yards, probably average around 4.5 yards a carry. Hopefully, I don't want to say hopefully he doesn't have to carry the ball that much, because hopefully he's running the ball and he's running well. But, God, I just hope some of those other guys can take the load off for him, because he's not the biggest guy. And hopefully if he could average 5 yards a carry and still just have 200 carries for 1,000 yards, I think that would be a better case scenario.
Yeah, no, Ralph Webb, he's a little man that can. But that said, I don't want him getting 25 carries per game.
Neither do I.
It's too much. We have depth at running back, at least it seems like it. You have to hope that Dallas Rivers, Josh Crawford, Blassingame, at least one of those 3 can really step up. Mm-hmm. Maybe even Jamari Wakefield. I mean, if you've watched his high school highlights, the guy was a freak. And he's playing the most competitive Florida high school football, I believe.
Yeah, and we'll say the last thing I want to end with, one last question, is a bold prediction. I don't care if it's about the team. I don't care if it's about a player. What do you think is going to happen this year? What do you think might sound crazy now, a crazy stat that could come true and could make you look like a genius?
15-0, we beat Clemson in the national championship. Does that count?
I mean, that might be a little.
That might be a little too bold even for me. I'll agree with you on that.
I mean, probably not Clemson. Probably like LSU. That's probably why.
Let's say bold prediction: Kyle Shermer throws for twice as many touchdowns as interceptions. If that happens, 9, 10, 11 wins. I would be ecstatic.
Very well. Oh, definitely. I'll say bold prediction: Torrin McGaster gets 8 interceptions.
I like that. He might move into the first round of the draft if that happens. That would be great. I think that sums it up. Talked a lot about our predictions for the season, the current roster, the easy schedule. look, we're pretty optimistic overall. We know that the most likely scenario is we finish with somewhere from 5 to 7 wins. But that said, we could be from anywhere from 2 to 10, 2 to 15, I guess. I said 15-0, beating Clemson.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that sums it up. So thank you for listening, and Anchor down.
Anchor down.